What's going on, guys? It is Spencer Gilmore here, back with another YouTube video. This one's going to be a little bit different. It is going to be a Q&A from a lot of the frequent questions that I get asked on my TikTok channel. I get so many questions on every single one of my videos, and I try to reply and make reply videos there, but we're going to do that here and, try to speed round, go through maybe 5 to 10 questions in the next 20 minutes and see how many we can get through. I selected a lot of these because a lot of these come up and they're more frequently asked, particularly around RU58841. But these are some of the most common questions that I get on my TikTok channel, and I wanted to try to voice them here, and then I'll probably post the shorts later as well. So let's get right into it. First off, I am not a medical professional. None of this is medical advice. Please take everything with a very large grain of salt, and of course, discuss with your doctor before jumping on any medication and getting your blood work done. First things first, can anyone use RU58841, or is it only for people on TRT? And is it dangerous for minoxidil and RU to mix? Okay, so the guy asked a couple questions there. Can anyone use RU58841? And the answer is no. It is not right for everyone. It is an alternative to treatments that are out there, or something that you should be using in addition to treatments that you're already on. RU58841, I can just literally read off just the definition here in case anyone who's not familiar with it yet. RU, also known as PSK3841 or HMR3841, is a non-steroidal anti-androgen. It is also in the common SARM family, selective androgen receptor modulators. It was investigated and developed by Prostrakan, a Scottish-based pharmaceutical company, for its potential therapeutic applications in conditions that were driven by androgens. Conditions such as acne, excessive hair growth, androgenic alopecia, male pattern hair baldness. Prostrakan conducted 2 clinical trials, phase 1 and phase 2, with a 5% solution of RU58841 when applied twice daily, and were reported to have similar effects to Finasteride. However, they were not ever done phase 3 trials, and since then Prostrakan has sold the patent to a Japanese pharmaceutical company out there. That's kind of a quick background on what it is and how it works, and maybe a look at the steroid skeleton molecule of RU58841. It actually works similar to Ketoconazole and spironolactone in women, which is what women would tend to use if they're suffering from male pattern baldness before jumping on a very powerful anti-androgen like RU58841. But back to the question, is this right for everyone? And no, it is not right for everyone. It is not just for people who are on TRT, though. If you are someone who is taking TRT, you should definitely be using either Finasteride or Finasteride, because you are likely going to be upping your testosterone, which increasingly ups your DHT levels, which is probably going to cause hair loss, and that's one of the most common side effects of people who use TRT, HRT, or steroids. But if you're going to be using those, you should definitely be using things like Finasteride and Dutasteride, and you can even use RU58841 as a conjunction with that. Derek from More Plates, More Dates used to talk about this and how he used it. But it is safe for people who are not on steroids, of course. Anybody can use the drug if they suffering from male pattern baldness or they'd like to try it. Is it dangerous for minoxidil and RU to mix? Absolutely not. We sell the product, and it is definitely not dangerous at all for them to mix, and I think it's actually more of a better together story because they tackle 2 different areas when it comes to new hair growth and preventing further hair loss and strengthening the hair that you currently have. Next thing is, does RU go systemic as Finasteride? And since it's a topical, do you get less side effects of it? RU ideally does not go systemic. Now, we do not have all of the data from the clinical trials because the phase 3, phase 4, and FDA approval were never completed, and the official results of phase 1 and phase 2 were never released to the public. Now, we have a lot of anecdotal evidence, and we do have some other studies that were done online, but none of it is 100% conclusive. So what it does is it attaches to the androgen receptors in your hair follicles, preventing testosterone and dihydrotestosterone from attaching to those hair follicles, which will miniaturize the hair follicles and force them to prematurely fall out. Now, it doesn't go systemic like Finasteride in a perfect world, because Finasteride lowers your body's DHT levels systemically. And since it is a topical, it is designed to not have those hormonal sexual side effects of Finasteride. Now, the reason why some people say that it does give them side effects is because it does go systemic and causes those chest tightness, rapid heartbeat, or shortness of breath side effects that are reported by a small but not insignificant amount of people who use RU on forums like Reddit. Now, most of them don't say where they got it from, because for every story of someone saying they got a side effect, there's another person saying they've been using it for months or years with no side effects. So I'm always a little skeptical, but I never want to delegitimize where people got it from. I think that answers all of those. That was a big question. It was the same question asked by like the same person. So we'll go to the next one. Does this work for women? So yes and no. Hair Rescue with RU58841 and minoxidil was not designed for women, mostly because of the dosage that we use in our bottle. 5% strength minoxidil and 5% strength RU58841. If you are a woman who is actually suffering from androgenic alopecia, where you have hair loss at the top of the scalp, and DHT related hair loss, which is this male pattern baldness, usually suffers from hair loss at the crown, the vertex, and right here at the hairline. That's usually where you get DHT related hair loss. And if you are a woman who's actually suffering from that and you've gone to your dermatologist and they've diagnosed you with that, they will more than likely prescribe you either spironolactone topical or ketoconazole topical, because those are both anti-androgens. They just have a slightly more mild effect than RU, because RU is such a more potent version of those. Those would be the first ones that I would recommend someone jumping on, especially for women. And you can even try this out for men. You could jump on those before and see if you get the effects and then try RU, because if those are working, you can go in there. You just have to get prescribed both of those by a doctor or get them from an online website. And that is why I wouldn't prescribe it. Alongside that, minoxidil, most women are told to use 2% or 3% strength minoxidil, not 5%. Now, I've seen people say that you can use either one, and I personally would say that women could use minoxidil 5% strength for helping to regrow hair, but it's definitely recommended you try the 2% and 3% strength ones that are usually the over-the-counter recommendations. If you're a woman, that is the route that I would go down. I can't stop you from using our products, but I would definitely recommend trying the spironolactone or ketoconazole options first. Another answer is, how does RU compare to 2% ketoconazole shampoos? RU is far stronger than ketoconazole. Ketoconazole is originally designed for dandruff control. However, it does have some mild anti-androgen effects, and it has been compared to be about the same as spironolactone when looked at. So it has been shown to have about the same effects as spironolactone, which spironolactone is what is sometimes prescribed to women who are suffering from acne or androgenic alopecia, hair loss. So RU is definitely much stronger, but it is something that you can use in your shampoos, and it's actually one of the things that I recommend for men is get a Nizoral or a ketoconazole based shampoo as one of the first lines of defense, because it's just a great thing that probably won't give you side effects. Next thing for Hair Rescue is, do you have an option without minoxidil, and is it safe to use alongside more minoxidil? Good question that I get asked all the time. Starting in March, we will be coming out with our RU58841 only version of Hair Rescue. So it will be Hair Rescue without the minoxidil. We've been getting asked that question a ton, which is, do you have an option without minoxidil? We just want to buy RU, and we're going to release it because why not? Originally, I thought it was a better together story and it differentiated us from what's on the market, but if people want to buy it from me and from Hair Rescue because they like the company, I will absolutely sell an RU only version. And the next part of that is, can you use it while on minoxidil? Absolutely. Minoxidil is actually recommended that you apply it twice a day, so morning and evening, due to the half-life. I personally don't do that. I'll use Hair Rescue once a day. And it's just because after a little while, I've noticed that I didn't need to use minoxidil twice a day, but I know that hundreds of the customers of Hair Rescue will use minoxidil maybe either morning or evening, and vice versa with Hair Rescue. So they'll use Hair Rescue in the morning or in the evening before bed, and then they'll use minoxidil, maybe a foam or a liquid version at the opposite time of the day, just to give them that twice a day minoxidil effect and the once a day anti-androgen effect. Another question I get asked a lot is, you said this product will help to regrow new hair. So this will grow back hair that has been lost. So the trick with hair regrowth is that it requires much more consistency and patience. Now, stopping hair loss, and one of the bold claims that we make on Hair Rescue's website, is RU58841 will reduce your hair loss within 2 weeks. And a lot of people notice this. 2 to 4 weeks, they'll notice a significant reduction in shedding. And that is because you are blocking the androgen receptors in your hair follicles, so those miniaturized follicles are no longer falling out. Now, when it comes to new hair growth, that's where the minoxidil is going to take place. Minoxidil has been shown to regrow hair after 3 to 6 months of consistent use, and that's when you use it twice a day. So yes, Hair Rescue can help you to regrow new hair, but unfortunately, it's not a caffeine pill, so you're probably going to notice new hair growth within that 3 to 6 month mark, which is that 90 to 180 days. And I know a lot of people struggle with consistency, so this is something that is going to be the hardest part and really up to you. If you are someone who can use this every day in a consistent routine and maybe even mix in things like a dermastamp, using minoxidil twice a day, so you have a minoxidil only solution, you have a shower filter, you have a scalp massager, you have maybe a hair growth shampoo, that's how you're really going to help to regrow new hair. And that's why it takes more time. It's just like, working out in the gym. It's a lot easier to maintain the muscle you've built, to lose a bunch of weight and gain a bunch of muscle. It just requires more work, but then once you get there, you can coast a little bit more. And the same thing goes for new hair growth. It's a lot easier to keep what you have than to try to grow a full head of hair. And that's why hair transplants are so popular now, because it's really difficult to regrow a bunch of new hair. Next thing, is this FDA approved? Is RU58841 FDA approved? Or is Hair Rescue FDA approved? This is kind of a question that I get asked a decent amount on my videos is, this isn't FDA approved. To which I will usually reply with, well, the FDA approved version gave you side effects. Now I know that's not a great answer, but no. The short answer is no. RU58841 is not FDA approved, neither is our formula Hair Rescue. Now minoxidil, topical minoxidil is FDA approved, which is one of the things that we have in our formula, and that has been shown to clinically regrow new hair with very minimal to, if any, side effects possible, and you can look those side effects up online. Most people are totally fine with minoxidil. I read through some of this earlier, that it went through phase 1 and phase 2, and some of the new data is showing that they may or may not look back into it, this new Japanese pharmaceutical company. And actually, some exciting new evidence has come out about another anti-androgen called pritulamide, which has been gone through phase 1, 2, and 3 now of clinical trials. And I've been monitoring this very close, and I think I'm actually going to order this and try it now soon. So I might stop using my product here and just specifically try pritulamide and see if I get better results, worse results, anything like that, because it has been shown to have a very similar structure compared to RU58841. When you look at the chemical makeup of them, I'm just going to read some of this interesting information about it. It's very similar, with a non-steroidal anti-androgen, works by blocking testosterone DHT from binding to the androgen receptors in the hair follicle. The difference is that another compound developed by the Shuzu Kintor Pharmaceuticals for the treatment of hair loss and acne works by degrading androgen receptors. Aside from the press releases, no clinical trials of pritulamide have been made public yet though. Pritulamide is currently undergoing phase 3 for male patients in the US, and we should have more data coming out soon. The trial concluded of 26 hospitals in China and involved more than 400 patients, and phase 3 had even larger patients than that. That was phase 2. But here are some of the even leaked pritulamide results. We can see that it tested 2 different concentrations, one group of 27 patients at a 0.25% twice a day, while another group of 30 were given 0.5% twice a day. 19 people were given a placebo, like a dummy serum, essentially. Total average hair count was taken by the treatment started after a gain 6 months later. On average, in the area tested, patients who had the 0.5% group, and the average of the 5% group had an average of 22.73 extra hairs after the treatment was done, compared to the 25% or 0.25% had an extra of 14 hairs. At first glance, both doses seem to have very positive effects on hair growth. This is actually really similar data to what RU5 had from their clinical trials and some of the data that was leaked in those trials back then. But this is far newer, back in 2022. So very exciting. So I guess what can we conclude from this? The looks are very promising into what this could possibly be. It is a mechanism of action of DHT function that could work similarly to finasteride and dutasteride or RU58841. And would likely have similar effects of both of these products. Unfortunately, it's hard to say at the moment with the lack of available information on side effect profiles and safety makeups of the compound, and it's just not as widely used as any of those other 3. You can read through a lot of Reddit forums and find hundreds of thousands of stories of basically all these drugs except for pritulamide. I think it's just been gate-kept a little bit more and a little bit harder to access, so people aren't using it quite as much. But the leaked information, assuming that is genuine, the data suggests that 5% pritulamide used twice a day is an effective product for male pattern baldness. So ongoing trials in the US, and we're going to be monitoring this closely, and we may eventually have a hair rescue that is pritulamide and then a pritulamide and minoxidil version, especially if the side effect profile is much, more known and the side effect profile is very, uncommon or no side effects, which would be pretty fantastic. Actually kind of leads into my next question here, which is, it's more of a statement that someone said, is there is no cure for hair loss, just go get a hair transplant. And to that, I would disagree. We do know what causes hair loss mostly, and it is the degrading of the androgen receptors in your hair follicles. Now that can be for a lot of different reasons, whether it's for stress, whether it's for malnutrition, whether it's for, the actual male pattern baldness. And we have things that can counteract it. We just don't have a one-stop shop solution that that can stop it, and then you don't have to do anything. And even hair transplants don't work that way. Most people are recommended to get on finasteride or dutasteride for months or years before getting a hair transplant to maximize their donor hair. And then after getting the hair transplant, those non-DHT sensitive hairs that are implanted in the top of the scalp will likely not fall out due to the DHT buildup, but the rest of the hair on the head is still DHT sensitive hairs. So you have to stay on those drugs, whether it's topical anti-androgen or your 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. So unfortunately, no, you have to stay on these drugs, and there is no one-stop shop solution yet. And whenever there is, it will be an absolute miracle. Because that's kind of leading into another question that I get asked a ton of time, which is, can you take this until you see results and then stop? Because this is expensive over time. And unfortunately, the answer to that is you cannot just completely stop taking these drugs. Now, I have had people get on the drugs and then get off them, but usually within 1 to 6 months of stopping whatever 5-alpha reductase inhibitors you're on or topical anti-androgens, you will likely begin to lose hair again because the DHT will build up on the scalp, causing your hair to miniaturize and fall out again. So this is just kind of a pay-to-play game, unfortunately, what we have with today's modern science. There is no one-stop shop solution. You have to take the pills, you have to get the PRP injections, you have to get the hair transplants, or you have to not lose the hair in the first place. So very unfortunate. But don't lose hope, because keeping the hair that you have is much easier and doesn't cost as much money as you'd think, especially with a lot of these compound pharmacies now, like Hims Keeps, Happy Head, and even Hair Rescue. You can get stuff for relatively low price, $1 a day. Next one. So I used to advertise, and it was one of the reasons for the founding of Hair Rescue, that I used to take finasteride, and I suffered from some of those DHT related side effects of finasteride. So did your side effects recover from stopping finasteride? And they say topical finasteride doesn't have the same side effects. My side effect profile did stop after taking finasteride. I bounced back. It definitely, it took 2-3 weeks of stopping finasteride because I was never on it for that long, and I tended to bounce back. But I definitely noticed within 2-3 weeks of taking finasteride, whether topical or oral, I will get those side effects happening again, and I have never seemed to find a way to completely counteract them. This is with taking 5 milligrams and 1 milligrams daily. Now, taking the topical versions of these drugs, I definitely did not notice the same side effects, but I did use a much more microdosed topical version, like 1 milligram to 0.5 milligram topically applied, and I would use this daily. And I've kind of bounced back and forth using them, so it's really up to you. The topical finasteride, there was a couple points added when they studied this. It's actually, for one, is not officially FDA approved when used topically, neither is dutasteride. So it is only approved FDA when you take it orally. It has a slightly different mechanism of action, but when compared, they noticed that you have about a 55 to 70% reduction in DHT when you take it orally, but they noticed about a 30 to 40% reduction in DHT when you used it topically, and this is with 1 milligram taken daily. They also noticed that the hair shedding reduced drastically within the first month on the oral version, whereas it didn't reduce drastically until about month 3 when using topically. So there was a slightly difference there, but after 6 months, they didn't have a statistical difference in the amount of new hair growth when it came to the oral versus the topical use. So what does that mean? It means you have to be more consistent with the topical, and the results will take a little bit longer, but with time, they should be about the same results, and you should have a smaller side effect profile when using it topically. So that's really great. If you're someone who suffered from issues of oral finasteride when it comes to those DHT-related side effects, you could use the topical version, and it is a greater chance, especially with the lower dose, that you will not get those same side effects. But if you're someone who is suffering from very aggressive shedding, you will probably need to either use a topical anti-androgen alongside that to reduce the side effects, because the oral version is just a lot stronger and faster acting. And this is the last question I think we'll be answering here. I hope that this has been beneficial for you. Been on finasteride for 10 months now without a single side effect. However, I was thinking of adding RU in to get better results. Should you try this? And this is a very common question that we get asked all the time here. I think that this is a better together story, and I've actually made a couple of videos called the Ultimate Hair Loss Prevention Guide, and it includes the following. You are taking finasteride, you're taking topical RU, you have a ketoconazole based shampoo that you use 3-4 times a week, and then you use a dermastamp and minoxidil. So with those 5 things, I think you can get fantastic results and completely ward off any more hair loss and regain a significant amount of hair for almost everyone who tries that. So if you're someone who hasn't suffered from any side effects of finasteride, but you're not getting the results you want, like you really just don't have that much new hair growth, and this is someone who's been on it for 10 months, which is far past the 3 to 6 month time frame for new hair growth. I mean, within a year of using these drugs, you should probably see a pretty significant difference in a before and after photo. And if you're not really getting any new hair growth, maybe you're just not losing any more hair, or it's much slower than you wanted, minoxidil and dermastamp and ketoconazole are going to be excellent options that you can use. Alongside that, you could even throw in maybe a multivitamin like a Nutrafol if you can afford it. I know that those are very expensive, so eating a vitamin-rich diet will probably be an easier, cheaper, more affordable version. And then adding in RU, a topical anti-androgen, I think can be an excellent option for aiding and speeding up the hair growth, and especially just giving you greater likelihood of success without upping your finasteride dose, which can lead to those sexual side effects. So if you tolerate it well at 1 milligram, you don't need to, jump up to 5 milligrams if you're not getting the results. You can add in those hair growth stimulants, or you can add in a topical anti-androgen, and you can even lower the dose. You can use like 3, 4, or 5% RU. You don't have to use the 5% strength at first. And maybe use half a milliliter, spread it out throughout the scalp. I think those can be excellent options for regrowing and gaining new hair. We're gonna finish it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have more questions, you can submit them on YouTube, and I will try to get to as many as possible, but I definitely get to the ones on my Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok far faster. So we'll make more videos like this going over really popular questions that I get asked, but these are some of the most common ones that I've been asked, especially going over RU, finasteride, side effects, can it be mixed? Is it for women? Is it for children? Things like that. All right, peace out.